Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third day and the final day of the workshop. Hope most of you are here connected to the meeting. So today we'll be looking at configuring Isinga for different services, and then some few of the changes to Isinga Director or the GUI version of the software. And then we'll look at configuring alerts based on different transport mechanisms on LibreNMS and again on Isinga. Later on, we created a small example to monitoring EDROM service or the free radius service that are hosted within your institutes, and then you may use that particular script or the procedure so that you can do the active monitoring of the free radius system plus the authentication system. So basically it will do an automated user login from the monitoring service, and then if that user login success, then there won't be any alert, but if there's an issue, then it will create an alert. So we will go through the guide in a minute. So I hope most of you have done the LibreNMS and Isinga installation. So if you haven't done, then there will be a problem continuing the guideline today, because all the guides today, we assume you have done the Isinga and LibreNMS installations. If I go to the, hope you can see my screen. If I go to the agenda page, and once you do the refresh, you will see today's guidelines. All are listed under day 3. Morning session will be doing some Isinga guide, and then if we got time, I'll go through the Slack configuration. So the Slack and Telegram will be used to do the alerting transport to the system or to whatever the users. So this alerting is done by Slack and Telegram, and for that you need to have the Slack and Telegram APIs created. So those APIs creation might take some time, so that is why I'm going to use the Slack guide in the morning session. And later on in the evening session, we'll be creating email alerts, Telegram alerts, and then Slack alerts. For the email alerts, we'll be using Google as the email server. So I hope almost all of you have some kind of a Google Gmail account. So you can simply go to your Gmail account. It doesn't matter whether it's a enterprise account or whether it's a educational account or whether it's a personal account. So I'm using my personal account for the testing. So what we will do is we will enable your Gmail account for SMTP transports, and then we'll configure those servers, LibreNMS and Isinga, for the email sending through Gmail. So all the email all the email alerts will go through Google to you. So that is one of the easiest way of doing the email transports, because creating an email service is not that much easy for testing purposes. That's why we are using Gmail. So that will be in the evening session. Emails, Isinga, emails with LibreNMS, emails with Isinga, and then Isinga and LibreNMS for Telegram and Slack. And later on, I'll go through quickly the iSinger DROM check script. Actually, it's not a script, it's a procedure. You have to do it on your iSinger server. So the difference between LibreNMS testing and iSinger testing will be compared at that moment, because from LibreNMS you can't do such testing like testing a DROM, but with iSinger you can do that. Then we'll be having an online feedback form. So it will be online after 12 today. So you can just go there and put your feedback before we end the session today. Okay, shall we go to the guide? So Deepthi will help me in describing this guide. Deepthi?
Yeah, may I share my screen now?
Yeah, please share.
Okay. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. There are some actually we have to know the generic some stuff here to go further. So last day we saw how to add a host and a service, but let's go through again. And actually when we are adding a host, we have to add a template, and I hope you can remember the stuff we did last day. So here, as I think you can see the images here, and we have to create a host template name, and actually we have to have a command here, otherwise it's not gonna allow us to create a template. And using that we have to add the host, and you should remember after adding host or service, we have to go to the activity login iSinger direct and deploy the changes. Always we have to do that. And again, as like we add the host, when we are adding a service, we have to add the service template first. Otherwise, it's not going to allow us to add a service here. And here I have taken the example as HTTP, and I think you can see how the template is created. And after creating the template, we have to add the template. We have to add the service using the template. And here there's a small example to check DNS. Here there is another thing, because in the service and host templates, we didn't add any fields, but here we are adding fields. Here you can see I am adding a service like DNS and using the D command. And after adding, we can see tabs on the top, and there we can see a field. If you have installed, you can check now. And then we have to choose the fields, and here we can add the field. And this is how I have added. And actually you can add whether the field is mandatory or optional. So it's up to you. And it has Okay. Here, after adding and deploying the service, I have adjust some IP address and DNS to check, because I added these things to show how to fill the answers here. So that is how you can use fields. You will have to use fields in next tutorials. So there's another thing, we can add agents. So when we are adding agents, it's not some kind of 2 or 3 steps like host adding or service adding. So first we have to go to host and create a template. And here I have create agents, and this others are the same, but there is another thing. We have to assign whether it's icing agent or not. Like when we are adding an icing agent, yeah, it's yes. And we have to create icing agent and so on settings. And there we should assign these values. And it's done in the master, like a web UI. And then we have to go to icing agent, the host we are going to add icing agent. And there actually this is how we are adding the host, like we did the host adding. But after, we have to go to the agent, log to the agent, and we have to install iSinger 2. And using these commands, you can install the iSinger host, the iSinger in the agent. And there's another thing, because please make sure that your master is resolving using the DNS. Like you can add the records to the host files and make it resolve that. And please check first, because otherwise you are going to have some certificate issues there. So you have to check that, and you have to install iSinger 2. And then again come to master, like web UI, the iSinger director, and click on the agent. Then you will see, like normally we are clicking on the host, and you can see some tabs, like some details. And there you can see service, host service, preview, history, and agent. There's a tab called agent. And there is some 2 scripts. One is for if the agent is Windows, and other is for if the agent is Linux. So we can download, whether if you want or you can download, or you can copy and make a file. We assume that the file is isingeragent.sh, and copy and give the permission to execute, and execute that. And it's gonna do all the other agent thing, and exchanging certificates things. And if I told you that you have to make sure whether the master is resolving, the agent is resolving the master's DNS. So otherwise, if it's not, then you are going to have an error here. And then you will have to again, if you are going to execute, you will have to again remove the certificates and re-execute. And here after, you can find the agent fingerprints and sign agent fingerprints using these commands. And then normally we are adding the agents and check the disk. Normally, if we want to, if we are checking disk, we are adding agents first. So, oh wait. Let me give me a minute. Okay. You can see my screen, right? Okay, we were here. Um, when we were talking about after signing the agent, we can create a again service, because checking disk is a service. So we are gonna create a service like we did, using templates. We are gonna service a service template for the check-in disk, and we can select to import the service template like before as we did, and then we can add the service again. Please remember to deploy all the changes you are going to do using the activity log, and that is how you are going to add service. This is it's also just a service like we initiated first. Wait. Okay. Wait. Tilina.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is some like network error or something. Wait.
Okay, then shall I show the example?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we were doing was like installing an agent, and agent is kind of a client system where we install on a particular device that we need to monitor. So that agent or that particular software can do all the testing and send the tested data back to the monitoring server. Most of the time, these kind of agents are needed to do internal testing. So things like SNMP or maybe ICMP testing are done from the outside, but those can't be used to check all the things in a system. So that is why we need something internally to do the testing. For example, if you want to test the disk space, then you need to do it after logging into your system. You can't do it using SNMP. You can do it using SNMP by creating a specific OID or maybe creating a specific trap. But that is again going to be a little bit difficult when doing a lot of things. So using a different agent will help you when testing things like disk space or maybe changes on a particular files, maybe a hash, even the things like testing a particular service that is not open to the outside, or or testing user details, maybe the user changes, user password expiry. Everything can be checked if you are inside the system that you are going to test. So that is what agent does. So for Isinga, if you go to the Isinga docs for the documentation, so this is the Isinga documentation page, and these links are given in the in our agenda references, so you can later on go there and see all these examples. So if you go to the if you look at the system, so this Isinga is kind of a master, satellite, and agent scenario, where master is the main location where you do the testing or the monitoring. Satellites are things like, if you have multiple locations, if you can't do the testing from a single location, you can install monitors on those multiple locations and then aggregate them into a single monitoring server. So you will get all the monitoring from a single place without using multiple monitoring systems. So that is what satellite does. So if you have multiple locations, if you have multiple networks, you can use multiple separate networks, then you can use these satellites. So in our examples, we are not using satellite examples because for most of you, it will be a single network in the sense all connected into a same network. So there can be different VLANs, there can be different network segments, but altogether it will be a single network for the outside. Then the agents. So agents, you install agent on different OS. So basically, here you will be doing Windows testing. You can do Windows testing. You can do Linux testing with Isinga. So that is what these three concepts does. So you can later on read these documentation and see how this thing works. So if you go back to the guide, they explained how you install agent. So with Isinga director, first you have to create an agent template or the agent host. So that is done by changing few things in the agent, Isinga agent and song settings. So you have to make Isinga agent into ES, and then you will do the establishing connection and accept connections back again. Then from the monitors, from the server side or the whatever the device that you are monitoring, on that side you have to again install Isinga core files. So that is why all those configurations are there. So we are just targeting Ubuntu client, but if you have different other operating systems, you can just go to the Isinga website and get all the guidelines from there. So everything is there. You just have to go there and take them. Only difference here is you need to make sure your client or your whatever that particular device knows who is your monitoring server. So if you don't know the monitoring server IP address, or if that particular system doesn't recognize the DNS value of the uh, monitoring server, it won't work. So because of that, you have to make sure that, or otherwise just go to etc host and put that IP address with the name. If you don't know the name of that monitoring system, or if you, so the thing here is for testing, we didn't put DNS. So in this case, this is not the actual DNS value of that particular IP. So this is the node name of your monitoring server. So if you don't know the node name of the monitoring server, on your Isinga director settings, if you go to that agent tab, you will see these scripts. So on those scripts, if you just read that Linux command line part under from uh, config from director, there's the first variable Isinga2 node name is the node name of that particular instance. So you have to add that host name. So in this case, it's agent.learn.ac.lk. But if you do a DNS lookup for agent.learn.ac.lk, there won't be any DNS. So because of that, you need to edit etc host in your agent server and add that particular IP. Otherwise, the script won't work. Then copy that script into your agent server and then run the script. So once you run the script, if everything goes as planned, you will see a message asking to restart the Isinga service. You just have to systemctl restart Isinga 2. All the commands will be there given, but for that restart, you have to do it manually. So restart that service and come back to the to your monitoring server. Come back to your monitoring server, and from your monitoring server, you have to allow that agent to do the communication with that server. So that is done by accepting the fingerprint of the agent server. So on your monitoring server, you have to first find the fingerprint of the agent server. So it will give, so that command is like Isinga2 ca list -- all. Once you enter that, you will see all the fingerprints of your server. So in the particular example image, you can see 3 devices. So we actually install 3 VMs to do the agent testing. So in this example, I'm going to add wp.lab.tilna.edu.lk as the agent. So for that, you need to again enter Isinga ca sign. Okay, so the command is Isinga2 ca sign. That 2 is missing. Isinga2 ca sign, and then you have to copy paste that fingerprint value. Then it will automatically sign the fingerprint. So once you again do this listing, CA listing, then you will see a star in front of the CN value of the newly signed agent. So please keep that in mind. This signing fingerprint command is Isinga2, not Isinga. We'll change it later. So as Deepti told, these are some example services we are testing. So this is to test the disk space from the agent, and then there's a DNS test file check. Um, okay, since this testing is not there, I'll try to log into my server, but the only thing I don't have the testing, this testing. So this is an example installation to do the disk testing. So you can see the agent name and the IP address and then the service name. And here, if you look at the host details, you can see all the details of the host and then the particular system. So from the Isinga director side, this is the particular disk agent. So here, this is done using this particular agent. And then if we look at the template, you can see the Isinga settings. Here we have included this run on agent as yes. So if you don't change that, then it won't do the testing on the agent. So in this case, we have to make sure this run on agent is made into yes, so it will do the testing on the particular agent. So these are some generic settings. You can simply later on create your own disk or whatever the file that you need to check, and then include the details. So in this case, I'm not specifying the disk partition. So because of that, it will do all the partition testing, and then it will give you the details of that particular partition. So if I go back to the service, you can see this one, and then on the overview service, okay, so this is easy for this thing. You can see the plugin output as disk okay, free space this much, and all the details. So that is how. And then the performance data, you can see slash boot is this much and the root is this much. So that is actually what it only have. So it has a boot partition and then the root partition. So these two are the data. And then again, I created a service called check IO, or the input output performances statistics. So on Ubuntu, check IO command is not available. You have to manually install that. On Ubuntu 20.04, it is not available. So this command have to be manually installed. And then again, this need to be run on an agent. So you can't do this testing from the outside. So this is another example for doing the testing. But I didn't include this particular setup on your documentation because this is too much time consuming, installing the required dependencies and then doing this testing. So it depends on how you do the testing. Okay, any questions? And you can see I have included different template for the Isinga software. So you can see a virus on the background. So that is one of the templates on Isinga. That is again done on the uh, configuration. If you go to configuration and application, you will see the default theme. So I have included this particular theme, so that is why it's there. So so generally it would be something like Isinga defaults. So this again, it will go back to the Isinga default settings. Okay, any questions? Any questions? You can do the testing of agent installation, and then you can do the um, service templates and services installation, and make sure you do the deploying of those configuration changes before they start applying, because if you don't do the deployment, then it won't work. So make sure that it is done. You can see my screen. So it's on Isinga director deployments, and then there will be a small arrow if there is something to be deployed. So in this case, at the moment, I have done all the deployments, and all the deployment history is there. And the changes that you are doing based on the deployment can be checked if you click on each deployment value. So here for this, you can see what what were the changes that were done. And if we take a deployment that went wrong, so in this case the cross is here, so it says the startup failed because there was some error. So in this case, you can see there's a critical error on this side of the configuration, saying invalid right side argument for in operator. So I was testing some service checks. So in this case, I was using a service group called web with HTTP as the tech command. So it was giving me an error saying there's an error. So once I corrected that, it again deployed. So this was the error received deployment, and then this was the corrected deployment. So in the corrected deployment, you won't get the errors. By the way, this template has changed all the colors, so the default colors won't be there. So because of that, I'll just go back to the default template. Okay, so now you can see the succeed and then the failed. Okay, any questions? So in this in my setup, there are few problems. You can see one host problem. So this tech test DP is having a critical host unreachable error. That means this particular IP address is not responding. And then for the service problems, again, that ping for that particular host is down. You can see that in this second alert. And then the first one is DNS test on eduid.lk is having a critical. So it's saying it's since May 18. So that is because we don't run a DNS server on this particular location. Because of that, it's giving me an error. But if you just look at this plugin timeout, so that is just to do the testing of problems. And the service guide grid, this is the example view of all the services and hosts. Any questions? Okay, so there's a question asking fail to load iSinger command host alive. How I fix this? So this host alive command comes with the monitoring tools package. If you monitoring plugins package, so if you haven't, just rerun that apt command. Okay, so even in the agent installation, we are installing these two packages. So that is the core iSinger 2 package, and then the monitoring and the monitoring plugin. So this monitoring plugin needs to be installed. Maybe because of some error, it might be the issues. Just try installing monitoring plugin and let's see what has happened. The other thing, if you get a lot of errors, just go to var log iSinger 2 directory in your monitoring server, and then you will find the log files, tail iSinger2.log files, and then you will see what were the errors. Okay, so one of the best practices you can do is creating few templates for uh, generic devices. So in my case, I did three uh, default templates. So that is like one for host that runs web service. So that is the default web comes, and then for all those other generic hosts. And then if you want to check a router, you can simply set a generic router, a generic switch, something like that. So there are no any specific value for that template, but maybe the IP address or maybe few other things like ICMP or ping, host alive tests, those things. So if I go inside the default web, you can see simply it is just checking the HTTP command. And these things I have mentioned. So these are all in seconds. So the check interval will be on 60 seconds. Retry on 30 and then maximum 2 attempts. Once that maximum attempts happen, it will, if that is an error, then it will send you an alert. So the same thing you can just test from the preview tab. Preview tab will give you the summary of that particular setting. So here we are creating a template called default tab with the check command HTTP with maximum 2 attempts, check interval of 1 minute and try interval of 30 seconds. And then there's a variable called volatile. So this volatile variable means if you set this volatile variable into yes, it will do alerting on every check it does. So if let's say if your particular service is down, then if we set this into yes at every 60 second or at every attempt, this will create an alert saying this particular service is down. So don't try to put volatile into yes on every service unless that particular service is very much important uh, to your work. So what will happen is this will flood your email or your SMS or your other whatever the alerting system, and it will create a lot of alerts at every attempt saying this is not working. So ultimately what will happen is you will simply to uh, uh, forget to check those alerts, or you will simply ignore those alerts because of that flooding. So that is why we are asking not to put this into yes unless that is important or unless that is a must. So then the generic host, if you look at the generic host preview, this is just the ping command with 3 attempts, maximum interval again 1, check intervals 1 minute. Here we are saying enable notification into true, because if you don't enable this enable notification into true, then you won't receive any notifications. Generic router. Okay, a small difference on generic router. We have created a group called router group and included all these hosts into a group called router group. So if I use this generic router template to create a host, that particular host will belong to a group called router group by default. So that will be there. So if I go to the host groups, you can see a router group there. Any questions? Okay, since we don't have any questions, I'll just explain some differences on my dashboard that you don't see in your dashboard. Uh, Particularly these uh, green boxes or the groups called routers and web portal availability. So that comes from a different module that we installed. So hopefully, I think that script you used to do the installation on Isinga had installed those scripts as those modules as well. So just check whether you can see uh, something called business processes and reporting in your installation. So in my case, you can see there's something called business process here and something called reports here. If you go to configuration and modules, you can see the business process module already installed and then reporting already installed. So if you don't see reporting in your installation, you can simply go to the you can go to Isinga website and find the URL for the reporting module, and then all the installation steps will be there. So it will be just copying and pasting few GitHub pages into your Isinga directory and then enabling from the Isinga command line. So it's just an easy task. So you can simply do that. We don't have to create a lot of guides for that. So even in our guideline, the manual installation, we have included few module example. So in here, this is enabling the React bundle module, then the IPL module. So this is the IPL module installation. This is the only thing. So it's like 5 or 6 commands. You just have to copy them from your from that reporting process and then do the installation. Okay, then back to those green boxes. So these green boxes are coming from the module called business processes. So in the business processes, you can create a business process. So in this case, I have created 2 business processes. One as, so this is just a name. So I just kept our routers and then web portals. So if you want to create one, you can just simply click create and then give an ID. Let's say DNS. So you can simply put an add here. So once you create that setup, it will be added into this location as well as you will be inside that particular system. So this is where you have to add nodes. So in this location, we have to add a node. So if you have multiple locations, you can add the multiple location node, or simply you can add the single node. So in my case, I'll just add a single node. Let's say DNS server. Here this operator means inside this node you can create multiple testing multiple services. So this operator means you can use these operators to test those or to compare those services. So in this case the default is AND. That means if all the services gets changed, then that will be uh, notified. So if unless you can simply add it as or maybe any other value. So this is the top level process. So you can see ash color box. So earlier it was like green and then it was like ash. So once again you have to go inside this. Now we are inside this and then you have to add a particular service. So you can directly add a service or you can directly add the host. So in this case, I'll be adding a service on. I can't remember whether I have done something like. Okay, so here you can see I have created a host called DNS and I'm doing a DNS testing. So I'm just adding that. So since that service is running, you can see the box in green. And then again, if I can add another service. Let's take Okay, let's take that testing DNS service which is not working. So here this particular service is at the moment down. Then you can see it as red. Okay, then once I go back to the DNS parent, you can see it as red because we uh, did the operate as and. So if it was like O, then it will become green, but you will get a notification saying one is down. I'll just keep it like and. Then you have to store those changes. Then once you go back to the business processes, you will see that particular service running. But still you can't get that on your dashboard. Then again, you have to go to this DNS setting, and then there's a small arrow here and click add to dashboard. You can add a title here, DNS. You can add a new dashboard or put it under existing dashboard. Then, so I did add it on the existing dashboard, so you can see the DNS availability. Likewise, so that is how this is done. Okay, so those who are asking questions, please put them so to everyone, so someone can again answer, not just me, because I'll be talking and I won't be looking at the chat all the time. Then there was a error message from Asela asking about IDO MySQL connection error. So there is actually an info tag. It's not an error. I'll just put the message to everyone. So this is the message. I forgot to copy the starting I, so it starts with an N, but it should be information. And then there was another question asking how to delete a host template. So go to director, host templates. Let's say you add a test template with some testing command. So I am deploying that as well. Now, when I go back to the host templates, you can see there's something called test template, and it is not yet used. So the question was how to delete. So what you can do is just go inside that and then click modify, or just click on the host value, and then you will see these details again. And at the bottom, you can see the command delete or the button delete. Just click delete, then it will be deleted. So you won't see that template again. So that is how you delete. And then since we delete the template, there will be another pending change, you just have to deploy that. You can see the uh, change here. First, I did the creating of host template, test template, and then the second one is for the deletion. And okay, so seems like that Asailers issue host alive command is not available. Can you check Isinga director and then Isinga director commands and external commands and see whether this is available. If you can't see something like this here, go back again to Isinga director and then there's a command called kick. Isinga director configuration. Sorry, this one, Isinga infrastructure. Go to Isinga infrastructure and then you will see a kickstart wizard. Click that and run import. It should import all those commands. And Nandika is asking, can we do an example on external command? Yes, so I will be explaining that external command thing with the edurom configuration. So that for that we'll be adding an external command. So in the evening session, I'll be doing that example. It's not specifically on SNMP, but it will be a similar thing. Deepti, can you help Asel and see what is happening with his error? Okay, so since it's like 11:20, I'll just go to the Slack settings. Uh, okay, so we asked you last week or the week before to create a Slack account for your institutes if there are a lot of people in your institute working on the same area or working on this network field. So Slack is kind of a enterprise messaging platform. So lot of companies, they use Slack for their enterprise communications. And this thing or this Slack is not for free, but they have their free account for with some limited capabilities. For our purposes, that free stuff would be more than enough. So you can simply create one of the free accounts for your institute, and then add all those people or all who work on the same area to that account. So for example, we have we created one for Learn, so it's again on the free tier. And if I just go back to that Slack, so here this one, I hope you can see my Slack. Yeah. So this is again the free version of Slack. You can see the message, and they have some limited number of messages that we can have. Uh, so in this example, it's like 10K messages. What happens when you pass that 10K value is it will remove all the old messages, so you can't scroll back to those old messages after that 10K passes. So that is the only limitation. So in our case, if you are using this for monitoring purposes, then 10K is more than enough even for a few months. So we can simply use this. So I actually created a Slack portal for Learn. So you can see that as this. And at the moment, all our technical people are included as members in this Slack. So you can see me and Herat at the moment are the only online people. And then there's another Tilina Learn. I included one of my Gmail accounts to do the testing, and then others are there as well. So the thing with Slack is you can have the Slack web portal as well as Slack desktop app and the mobile app. Because of that, it is easy. It's like using WhatsApp, but this is more customized into your environment. And you can add a lot of users as well. So it's not like just WhatsApp, but it's like using your own communication platform. So if I want to communicate with Herat from this, you can simply put a hi here and enter whatever the message I like. So again, he can reply to me from the same way using his mobile phone or maybe his desktop app or even his web app. If you are not available, Slack will just put a email sending there's a message for you. So that is simply how Slack works. And then there are several things like channels on Slack, where channels are like the group messaging platforms where you can simply create general type of channels, where general means everyone can read, or you can add protected channels where only specific people will be there to do the reading or typing on that system. So in this case, this general monitoring and random channels are like for everyone. So anyone can just put anything. And then this PDA notification is only for a selected few. Uh, so the network admins, you can just create a Slack channel for your institute and then add all the others into that. So if you have, let's say, if you have 5 people in this call, don't create 5 instances of the same Slack, uh, uh, 5 instances for your institute. Just create a single portal and include others. All the guidelines are given in the uh, Slack guide. You can simply use your uh, domain. Don't go with Google or any other email. Just use your official email address and then create a workspace. So in this example, I'm using something called tilinapatrina.inc with my own domain. And then I'm creating a channel called monitoring, and I'm inviting others in my domain. And then you can download Slack. So I'm using my Mac book, so that is why it's showing me download Slack for Mac OS, but it will do the same for Windows. And then once you log in, you can just use monitoring Slack. So up to this point, it is creating the Slack application, creating the Slack login, and then the Slack channels and everything. So in this case, most of the time, Slack will send you an email with the login URL. You don't have to save a password for Slack. It will just send you a one-time URL when you want to log in with your email. So it will just send you an login link to your email address. Okay, so why we created Slack is to do the alerting on LibreNMS and iSinger. So to do that, we need to create a bot, and for this example, it's particularly a webhook bot. So this webhook have to be created using the steps described on this given link. So just go to this given link, and then there will be 4 steps. Do the first 3 steps, and then you can create the webhook. So sample images are given here, so you don't have to you can just put whatever the name you like, but make sure you put a name, meaningful name, and then select the workspace as the workspace that you created, and then select incoming webhooks on the next page, and then you have to enable incoming webhooks. Then you need to create a webhook by clicking add new webhook to workspace. So once you click that, it will ask you the channel that you need these webhooks to be activated. So here in this case, I'm selecting monitoring channel. And once that is created, it will give you some example, like the one that is masked. So actually this webhook URL, it should be a secret value for you. Don't put it on internet, because anyone who have this URL can message into your channel. So the webhook URL is in this location. I can simply copy it and then use it in my iSinger or LibreNMS configuration. So this curl command is just there for the testing. For example, if I use that same okay, on my terminal, I'm just copying that uh, sample with some little changes to the data content. Here I have edited this data content, but you can simply use whatever the value that is there. And once you click that, it will give you a message saying okay. And then if you go back to your Slack, now you can see the monitoring channel is bold. That means there's something on that, something new on the monitoring channel. So if when I click that, you can see a message at 11:32, which I sent from my terminal. So this is hello world and with a new line. So okay, so since I'm doing this live on Zoom, and later on this will be available on YouTube, I may need to change this particular value because I'm just publicly showing this to everyone. Okay, so here you can see the new message. Hello guys. So I can simply reply, but that reply won't come back to me on the application window, because this particular app is a one-way or a broadcast kind of an app. But the uh, easy thing with this application is you can simply keep tabs, or you can simply reply to that. So for example, if I can add a reaction to this particular one, or maybe share that message with someone else, something like this, or maybe reply in a different thread. So let's say I can add a different thread, so someone again in the channel can again reply to that same thread as well. So there are a lot of things you can do with Slack. And then these are some alerting from the iSinger and LibreNMS. So this is from LibreNMS and this is from Slack. Okay, can we create those Slack channels and test? You can simply use this curl command and do the testing. If you have multiple users, then it will be much more easier for you because you can do cross testing, cross checks. You can try that and ask any question. Any questions? You can put your Slack URLs on chat so we can see whether actually you did. You have any chat, any Slack created? Okay, so since you uh, don't have any questions, I'm not going to start the other tutorial because it's just 10 minutes apart from the break. Uh, so we can just go for lunch now and then come back at 1 p.m. If uh, anyhow we will be online in the channel till 12. So if you like, you can just disconnect and come back at 1 p.m. or otherwise you can stay till 11 and then till 12 and then go to lunch and then come back at 1 p.m. Uh, so in the evening session, we'll be configuring emails, Telegram, and Slack on LibreNMS and Isinga too. Okay, good evening, everyone. So, hope almost all of you are connected. Okay, now let's see how we configure emails and then Slack and Telegram for LibreNMS first, and then for the iSinger. Okay, so if we go back to the guide, the agenda, you can see there are 5 files linked in this hands-on set. First one is for the LibreNMS alerting, and rest are for iSinger, because iSinger it will take little time because it's not a straightforward thing. But for LibreNMS, you can simply configure them. So if I go to LibreNMS part, first we need to configure email server details in your LibreNMS setup. So as I said earlier, we'll be using our Gmail accounts, or whatever the Gmail account that you are having to do the transport. So the alerting system on LibreNMS is at the LibreNMS alerts menu. So in that menu, you can see alert transports. So those alert transports are created for each email. So if, for example, if you have multiple people, you may need to have created several transports for each of those emails. So for example, the given example, this one is for sending emails to that particular email. So that is why it's given a name called transport email to Tilina, and then it's a mail type transport with the email address. So in this case, I'm using the default value as no, because if you want, okay, so let's say there are multiple transport types. You can specify one type as the default email, default transporting method. But in this case, I'm not making it default. So this is how you add an email to your LibreNMS. So in this example, all these settings will be on all these will be on alerts and alert transport part. So it's on alert transport. When you go into that place, so in this case, there are several transports already created, but for you, there might be nothing in this part. So you just have to create this alert transport, and then give a name to the transport and the transport type. So first example, we'll be using mail, and then you have to put the email address. So I can simply put my email address like this, and give a name. Something like this, and click save. Once you create that particular setup, you can see, okay, in here, this is the created alert that was made. So next you have to set up your Gmail account to accept this SMTP details. So to do that, you have to go to your Gmail account settings, and then go to security, and there's a tab called less secure app access, and then allow access to less secure apps. I'm not sure I have a Gmail logged in here. Let's see. Uh, 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 uh. Okay, so my email address would be something, Gmail home page would be something like this. Then go to security. On security, you will find something called less secure app access. In my case, I have kept it already enabled. So for you, you will see something like turn on access, and it is saying not recommended, but for our testing purpose, we need to do this. So enable this on less secure app access, and then go back to your LibreNMS, and on the global settings, there you have to configure email options, email details, email server details for LibreNMS. So these are the sample values for Gmail. You can use the same. You can change the from and from email details, but make sure this email address matches your authentication email. So the SMTP authentication should be your Gmail address with @gmail.com part and the Gmail password. Uh, and in for these examples, I'm supposing that you are not enabled this multi-factor authentication. If your multi-factor authentication is enabled on Gmail, then you have to go to application. So since I haven't enabled multi-factor authentication on this account, I can't see that app verification. Otherwise, there will be something in here signing into Google with application passwords. You need to create an application password and enter those details on LibreNMS. So on LibreNMS, go to global settings, and then there's something called alerting, and on the alerting email options, you need to give these details. Otherwise, your transport won't work. Once you enable those, once you done those Gmail settings or enter in the Gmail details on LibreNMS, come back to this email transport page or the transport alert page, and then click this test button, the tick mark, click that, and then it should send you a test mail. So here you can see test to mail, okay. And you will receive a test account. It is then when I go back to my Gmail, you can see there's a new mail from, in this case, it's mentioning me because I'm using the same account, but if you use a different account, you will receive the same from this. So here you can see this is sent from LibreNMS to this particular email address. And one other advantage of having a Gmail account sending these alerts is it will save all the sent email on sent section in the Gmail. So here you can see the latest test email, and then others, all the others are like testing emails from different monitoring systems that I kept testing. So these are some example emails. So you can see this is sent to Tuan. And then similar way, create a Slack transport, select the transport type as Slack, and then copy that webhook URL into this location, and don't put any options. Just put the webhook URL in this location and then save the transport. Again, you can do the testing, then you will see a test message on your monitoring channel sent by LibreNMS.
Hello, Telina.
Yeah, Chandana.
I'm Chandana.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience when our Google accounts, if we connect it to the Lexicon mode, what can be happened with the comparing with the other normal accounts? Because of the in our cases we have take the Google accounts, it cannot be the only users cannot enable that feature. I think that administrator should have to do it.
Yeah. So
there is some issues.
Yeah. This is only for the testing purposes, and why we are using this for workshops, because testing a Gmail or just testing an email system is not possible while most of you are in at home, and installing email servers are not that much practical. That is one point. And the other thing, if you use Gmail, then that means an institution admin should use these settings, not everyone. So there should be a particular email dedicated to this system. For example, LibreNMS, there should be a particular dedicated email. Don't put someone else's personal email address if you are using it for production. Then that particular email should only be connected with LibreNMS or iSinga, and it should only have the less secure connectivity only for that particular email, not for everyone.
Yeah, or otherwise it is kept as a separate account for this purpose only.
Yeah.
Create a different, not the university domain, with the Gmail domain or something like that.
That is also possible, but the only thing, then whoever the users who get this alert should know that email address, otherwise they will think this as a spam.
Yeah, or otherwise they can get a dot forward to the original email, no?
Yeah, so in this case I'm using Gmail, but if you have your own email server, you can simply use that server details. You don't have to put Gmail.
Yeah, previously when we are using that our own email, there is no problem to allow these things, but when we are now using the Gmail system, there is an issue.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So
okay. Thank you.
Better to, so for these Gmail education package users, the best solution is to create a specific email address for that specific system and allows less secure access only for that system. And then there's another thing called application passwords for the accounts that have the two-way authentication enabled. So those accounts with two-way authentication enabled can have the password application password system from Google. So that is something they are providing to connect Gmail accounts with different other systems. So again, that is another option you can try and see. So for the simplicity, I'm still using the less secure method. So this is just for the testing, and don't do this for the production if you don't like. Anyway, I'm using my own Gmail account. Okay, so that is regarding Gmail. Back to Slack, create a Slack transport with that particular webhook. So don't create a secondary webhook, just use the one we created earlier, and then include that on the transport page. And then other thing is how to enable Telegram transports. So Telegram creating a transport is very much easy. You just have to use something called botfather to create a bot on Telegram account on your Telegram account, and then create a bot using the given instructions. So those instructions are given there. Create Telegram bot. So for that you need to have a Telegram account, and for the simplicity, I'm asking you to use the PC app. Install Telegram PC or the desktop app into your system. Connect to your Telegram account using that, because we will be copying several API keys from that interface. Otherwise, you have to copy them from your mobile app. So it's little much difficult at the moment. So better to have your Telegram desktop app, and then you need to get botfather connected with your account. Just find the botfather from that URL, and then for the botfather you can use okay, so I'll just show you. So this is my this is an already created one, and this is the botfather bot. Here you have to, so once you enable bot, you can simply give the command help, and then botfather will send you the details of how to create those bots. So what you have to do is enter /new bot or this one, and then follow the guidelines given by the bot. So it will create a lot of details for you when creating the new bot, but it might take some time depending on the botfather's availability, because it's again an automated system. Once botfather creates your bot, you have to associate that bot with that particular one. So here you can see this bot I have created, and I just entered this URL lately. So it just sent me through the testing mechanism, and then go back to the guideline, and on your So bot father will give you a token code, copy that and go to this URL. So you have to replace your token code with this area. So copy your token, replace that value and go to that URL and keep refreshing your web. Then it will give some messages like this. Once you receive this message, then create a Telegram group with whoever the users you have. So for example, if you have 4-5 network admins, add them all to that group, including the bot that you created. So on that group, there should be your bot and your user. So in this case, you can see there's a group called test and with 4 members. So in this example, you can see 4 members are, this is my number, and then you can see Tuan and Deepthi and also the bot. Then once again, run this command and then you will receive a different ID and a different message type. So a similar message like this, but it will contain a different chat ID. So this chat ID is needed for the transport purpose. So actually the chat ID means the ID of whatever the group that you create. Once you receive that, you can simply add those two values, chat ID and the token, on the LibreNMS transport. So here the example, you can see my chat ID is a minus value. So this chat IDs can be anything. So in my example, it's a minus value. So it's starting like -10 something. And then the token is a little bit longer value, including numbers, characters, semicolons, everything. So I'm replacing my bot token with this. So you can see the, okay, so I'm not sure you can see my URL, but when you replace that URL, it will send you something. So I just add some message here, and you can see the refreshed URLs with the JSON output. And here you can see the ID value of the sent user. So in this case, I don't need this value. What I need is this value. This is the chat ID. Chat ID is, for me, it's kind of a negative value. Doesn't matter, just copy that. So there should be two ID values. One, if you use this particular way. So here I am using the details of the message that was sent from this particular message. So here it's like few characters, and here you can see the same here. So this is the ID of my user. What I need is this one. Okay, then there was a question asking why we need too much hard disk for monitoring systems, because once we install the system, it is still used like 10 GB after installing. The thing here is most of these monitoring systems, they will keep logs for like ever. So it's better to have a large hard disk, at least 500 GB if you are running multiple devices. And they will run a lot of SQL databases. They will depend on a lot of RDD files, RRD files, and then other different files like maybe net flow captures or maybe data captures, anything. So for those purposes, we need hard disk space. So please use at least 500 GB hard disk for the production server. So I'm saying at least 500, assuming there are like 10 to 20 devices that you are going to monitor. But if you are monitoring around 100 devices, if you are a large university admin, if you are admin of a large university, then try to use at least 1 terabyte hard disk, because it's easy for you to have a single system with all the logs rather than connecting hard disk later when you ran out of hard disk. So it's better to do the installation in one shot. Okay, once you get the Telegram details, Telegram chat ID and the token, you may add Telegram transport as well. Then the other way, then the other thing from the LibreNMS is you have to include a transport group to put all these transport types into a single group. Otherwise, from the alerts, you will receive the alert only to a single transport. So since we have multiple transport mechanisms like email, Slack, Telegram, or maybe multiple emails, we have to create the transport group. So in my example, I'm creating something called transport default as the group name, and then adding all the transport types that I need. So for me, I need to add Slack learn channel, Telegram channel, and then email. I'm sending emails to me and to Tuan. So that is create transport group. So in here you can see there are two groups at the moment. This is the default value. So actually now I'm using 5, 2 emails, 2 Slacks, and 1 Telegram.
Hello, Mr. Tilina, there is some error message. Shall I share the screen now?
Yeah, sure.
Disabled or screen share.
Try now.
Okay. So after I do this one, alert transport and I save transport, there is some error coming here saying fail to process alert transport. Even I do this Slack and put the webhook and everything.
That happens if you don't give the required permissions when you are doing the installation of LibreNMS. So it doesn't allow you to do changes to the system. So on the LibreNMS installation guide, there was some last moment permission changes.
Can't we do something now?
Yeah, I just there's something like there's a permission change like chmod minus. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, so can you rerun these 4 sets?
These 4 sets.
Yeah.
Okay.
And try. So these are the GitHub permission. Sorry, LibreNMS permission to the folder, and then refresh Nginx, restart Nginx.
Okay. Okay, I'll try. Okay.
Once you save this transport group, you can create alerts. So this particular link goes to a old guide we did a few years back on creating custom alerts. So these are custom alerts done by Mr. Solangarachi from Cali Medical Faculty. So these are some examples on how to create custom rules, and you can just check them later on. But then there are several default values on alert rules. Once you go to alert rules, you will see a lot of default rules. Make sure your transport value in this is changed to default transport. So if this is not changed, just edit this line and add that transport group into this location. These are some actually all of these are like custom made default values, but in this case this particular rule is a custom rule. Again, there are given alert templates. So these are alert templates. You can create alert templates if you like. The default alert template is something like this. That is what we saw. And then if you want to create a new template, the easiest way is to create rule from collection. So there will be a set of examples. So if you want to create one, you can simply, okay, let's try this one. Device up down, select this one. You can create test device. and then you can specifically select a particular device. So I'm doing this for this particular device, not for all. If you want to do it for all, just keep this blank and you can simply switch on this and then select the transport default and then save. This is the one we just created. If you remove the value, then it will be like all devices. So this is the test alert from LibreNMS and to Telegram, and this is to Slack. Okay, so there's a question asking, are there any conflicts between these two types of monitoring services, and how to conflicts if you are going to install both in your system. So actually, these two particular systems are there to do two different things. LibreNMS will do the continuous monitoring and measuring of different services, whereas Isinga will look on the availability on the service. So you can do both to test or monitor the same service. Okay, so let's take a web server as the example. Let's take the web server you have, and we need to monitor the availability of that server. So that checking the availability of the system is one aspect, and again you might need to check different other things of the of that server. So for example, if you want to check the number of users, if you want to check the number of traffic or the traffic patterns to that server, you can enable SNMP in that server and then add LibreNMS to do the counting or to do the monitoring of different graphs. So LibreNMS will come give you a lot of graphs like the patterns and to check different things in that server. So for those things, you don't have to put alerts because they are just there to do the monitoring. But you can define different thresholds. For example, let's say if the number of processors on that particular system is like 75%, then an alert creates. Or maybe if the traffic is beyond some value, then it creates an alert. So those things can be done from both systems, but the continuous monitoring of a particular system, maybe the traffic, is easy with LibreNMS if you are monitoring traffic graphs and other type of graphs. But when it comes to the availability, the pure availability of a particular system or a particular software or a particular file, maybe a change difference, then it's easy to do the alerting with Isinga, because Isinga is specifically made to do the availability checks and do the alerting. So the difference with these two systems is that, so it depends on what you are going to monitor and how you are going to monitor. If you want detailed descriptions of the service without much alerting, then you can go with LibreNMS. But if you want custom alerts, if you want custom checks, then you have to go with Isinga. So you can associate both if you can simply divide what you are going to test on those two particular systems. And the other question is, can we install these two systems on the same machine? Yes, you can install these systems on the same machine on two virtual host. Virtual host means if you are using Apache, then two Apache virtual hosts. If you are using Nginx, two different Nginx hosts. Only thing is, LibreNMS will take a lot of RAM and disk space to do the monitoring. So just keep that in mind. If you have a big server, like let's say 32 GB RAM with around 1 T hard disk and multiple processors, at least 4 core processor, then you may go for that kind of an installation. But if you have 4 GB RAM and like 2 core processor, then don't install both on the same server. Okay, then since we are running out of time, I'm going to the Isinga part because Isinga is the longer part. So Again, for Isinga, we'll be using Gmail, same Gmail account with the same privileges. So you don't have to do any changes on the Gmail account. But for the Isinga to work, you have to install Postfix web server in your system. So I hope our installation installed Postfix in your systems. Just check whether this file is there. If not, just check systemctl status postfix. If that is not available, please install it. Apt install postfix. It will take few minutes to install, but it will just install. Go with the default settings where if there are any postfix values, just do the default installation. And once the installation is done, edit this particular file and include these things. Here including means not appending this into the end of the file. Don't copy paste. Just go to that file, and there should already be these lines. Just edit them and add. Don't copy paste. Don't copy this whole thing into your file. After that, we have to define your Google authentication details. So that will be on a file called this. So there won't be an existing file. You may have to create one. Create that file and include this. So in this line, this is your Gmail address, username. After the colon, it should be your password. Anyway, that is not my password, so I just freely kept it like that. And then restart postfix. Once this restart happens, try a small test email using the mail utilities and see whether this works. So in my case, postfix. So this is the postfix configuration. I know most of you have configured postfix earlier. So if I cat the main file, then you can see those details I have included. And you can see my password file here. I'm not going to show it now because it contains my password. And then you can simply use mail utility to send a test mail. Mail minus s, then the test mail by console to com. Okay, so once you enter that command, it will first ask the CC value. Just click enter, and then it will stay waiting. That is just to get the message body, and then click Control D. You should click Control D to stop that message sending. So in that example, I didn't include the message body, so that is why it's saying null message body. Hope that's okay, but that is fine. So this is the mail. Just for the CC, just forget about the CC, just click enter, and if you like, you can type my message and then click Control D. Click enter and Control D. New line, Control D. Then you should receive your email. Here you can see two messages. One test mail from the console without the message body, and then test mail by console with the message body. Once your email server settings are working, you can go to the director portal again. And on the iSinger director, there's something called users/contacts. Go to that users/contacts and create a user group called admin group. So yeah, not like LibreNMS. In this case, we have to create user account, user details for each user that we are going to send the to all the users we are going to send the notification. So in this case, since we have multiple admins, I'm going to create a user group called admin and then add those details to every user that I'm going to create. So now I'm going to create a user group called admin, and then I'm going back to user contacts and now creating a template for the admin user. So earlier this was the admin group, and now this is the template. So by now you should have an idea on iSinger and how it works. So for most of the things, we need to create a template before creating the actual thing. So likewise, for the users, we need to create a user template before creating the users. So this user template, I'm going to give the name admin. I'm going to add admin group as groups, and then select send notification into yes, and add these states and transition types as shown in this image. So it will take some time. You need to include all these things one by one, and then click add. So that template adds into your into your system. After that, now you can create the particular user. So here you can see I'm creating a user for me. So the username is Tilina. I'm going to import that admin template. Display name is Tilina Patirana. In this case, I'm not going to add any user group, but it will be automatically, this user will be automatically added into the admin group. My email address. Okay, so Isinga still uses the name pager, but for us, you can use your mobile number as the pager value, and then the other details, and add the user. So if you have multiple users, you can repeat that same thing for all the users. If I go to my my Isinga installation, so actually you can see 4 objects defined. One of them are template, 2 group objects created. So if I go to user contacts, there's a user group called admin group test users, and user templates, there's the admin user, and on the user there are 3 users, the Tilina and Tilina the Gmail. So one I'm having with my learn email, and the other one having my Gmail account. So that is for the users. Again, if you want to add a new user, you can simply call, add one to one, import admin display name again to one. You don't have to click admin any other things, but the email address, likewise. I can't remember his email, so his phone number, so I'm not going to include that, but now I'm going to add. So the user to one is included, and now you can see my activity log is popping me something. That means I need to deploy. So once you add all those users, you can simply deploy them at a single click. Then you can go to overview contacts. Overview contacts. Now you can see the details. I think admin is the admin account I am using. Then the Tilina account. That tilina@tilina.com is still there. I didn't know that. Anyway, Tilina Gmail, and then the one that I just created. Okay. All right, so next is the hard part. So these notifications and sending different emails, different transports, they have to be done using specific scripts. So those scripts have to be written by you, or utilize them from somewhere else that someone already used. So in this case, I'm using 2 scripts which I found from the internet. So I got a copy of that, and then I edited it, edited those scripts to customize it into our environment. So you can see 2 GitHub scripts will be downloaded into this particular location. So this is on your monitoring server, on your Isinga server. So you have to log into your Isinga server as root, go to that specific location, copy, download these 2 scripts, and add executable permission to those 2 scripts. And if you go to these scripts directly on your browser, I'll just show you one. So this is one script. So this was originally created by someone called Marianne Spiller. and I just used her blog to get these details. So, and then did some changes to the body because we need it for our particular environment. Then, so this is how we are running the email system. So what it does is it calls send mail function, and then you need to check your system and see whether it contains send mail. I just got dropped. You can simply enter which send mail and see whether you receive any value. So in this case, I have send mail installed already. If you don't have send mail, again, please type apt install send mail. So that is in case if you don't see the send mail installed in your system. Okay, so this script is like using send mail and passing different variables and constructing a message that should be sent to your particular email alert. So if I go to my emails, I'll show you one of the examples. So this is one example using that template. Again, let's go for this one. There is LibreNMS. Don't type. So this is created by that particular template, this particular file. So going back to the guide. So we have to create two different scripts for sending alerts based on two different things that we are monitoring. So in Isinga, the two different things we are monitoring are the hosts and the services. So for our host testing, we have to use this first script, and for the service alerting, you have to use the second system. Next, we need to associate these two scripts on your Isinga director. So to do that, you have to go to commands and create a custom command to associate that particular script. So that is done by clicking this command and adding a new command. So when you go to commands, you can see I have already created a lot of commands. Once you click add, it's something like this, and it asks you what type of a command that you are going to create. So there are a lot of command types, but particularly for these notifications, there's something called notification plugin command. We'll be creating a notification plugin command, and then you have to give other details as given in the guide. So in this, make sure the command is exactly the full path of that particular script. So the command value should be, for example, command should be the full path of that particular script. Make sure that, and otherwise you will get errors on that. Then click add. Once you click add, you will receive few more other tabs: preview, history, fields, and arguments. So for each command, you will see these 5 tabs. Once you receive this, you can simply go to the preview and see the command. So it's using this command line argument as a plugin notification command. So the command name is this. Then history, I'm just creating the command, and then fields and arguments. So the fields and arguments are like, if you need to send some custom values from your director or from your Isinga system to that particular script, then we need to specify them as arguments or options. For example, when we are entering commands on Linux, sometimes we use different flags to put different argument values. So likewise, we need, if you create your script with such flags or arguments, then you have to include them in this location. So for this particular script, we are having like around 10 arguments. All these arguments have to be added into your system. For example, I'll add one for you. Others you can simply add. So there's a argument called -4. So the flag is like -4, and it's going to be mapped to the value this. So this is the variable matching for the IPv4 address of a particular host from the system, from the Isinga system. So actually this is coming from the Isinga. So all these variables are mostly coming from the Isinga guide, and you can get them from that location. So these are just variable names, system made variable names. So on the arguments, I'm going to put the argument name as -4. Argument type is string, and then value is this. And then click add. Once you click add, you can see that add button changes into store and delete, and at the bottom you can find that particular argument. So now you are inside that particular argument. So now you have already added that argument value, and you have done that part. Then what you have to do is you have to click this back button. Once you click the back button, you will see that add button comes again, and now you can add the other option. So the other option is like -6, and the value is like address 6, something like this, and then again click add. If you change this, let's say I just put something like this and click store, then it will simply edit that existing value. So don't change, so don't do any changes to this when you are adding multiple values. Always, once you click add button, click back and then add the second variable, second argument. So finally, if you look at the preview, you can see all these things that you are adding will be listed under arguments. Okay, so back to the guide, you have to include all these arguments for this particular plugin and then do deploy. Then do the same thing for the other script as well. The other script also need these things as its arguments and then deploy. Once you do that, you will get two once you do that, you will get two commands like host alarm by email and host alarm by service alarm by email on the command section. So in this case, there are like a lot of commands because I'm using a lot of other commands. For the email, once you do that, you will see this host alarm by email and host alarm by service alarm by email. If you do if you want to delete something, just click on that particular value and then click delete, and it will just go from your system. Once you deploy those settings, you need to create a notification template and then create the notification type. So again, we need to create two notification templates, one for the mail host, sending an email for an host issue and sending an email for an service issue. So I'm using these two names, mail-host-template and mail-service-template. So in this template, you can give the name. For the notification command, select this particular value. Notification interval means you have to specify an interval for notifications, otherwise it will spam your mailbox with every time it do the checks. So once you do a notification interval, it will keep tabs between the notifications based on that interval. So this is on seconds, so 7200 means 2 hours time. So you will receive the first alert and then you will receive the second alert after 2 hours if you don't do any changes to that particular issue. If your system got recovered, then without the notification interval, you will receive the recovery notification. So the notifications are under iSync director notifications. First, go to the template. So in this case, you can see I have already created mail host template. So I'll just create something with a different name. Host temp. You need to give the notification command like host email by host alarm by email. Don't mention any user or a user group in this template because this is a template and it can be used with different users. You can simply put 7,200 as the time interval. Last notification, I think I had 10 days. Last notification means it will, if you don't react on that issue, this will do continuous alerting every 2 hours until 10 days. Once it reaches the 10-day line, it will stop sending notifications. And then click add. Same thing you can do for the service template. Only change here is this is service command the notification command is service alarm by type. So the difference, first one, host alarm by email, second command, service alarm by email. Once you do that, next go to the notification section. So in this case, these notifications, here you can see there are like lot of notification, but most of them I have disabled. So we can simply add one, and you can have to import the template, mail host template, and in this location we can define the user group. You need to mention where we are going to apply these. So the I said earlier there are two categories, hosts and services. So it will ask where to apply. So this is regarding hosts, and the other details are given in the guide. You can simply go through the guide and get those details. One important thing is this assign where value. This assign where value means where you are going to apply this notification. If you don't put something like this, then this notification won't work. So for that, there's a variable called host enable notifications. It needs to be set to true. So this command will check whether this host enable notification is set to true. And then for the state transition types, there are for host, you have to select up and down. Transition types you can decide. So for the example, I'm using everything, and then click add. So this is the notification on host alerts to admins. You can see host mail template to admin group. This is true, and this is done. Okay, so the same thing for the notification service templates. Here you can see service enable notification is true. So that is done for emails, and then you need to deploy those changes. Otherwise, you won't receive any notifications. So in this case, I'm going to activate the values. Earlier, I have disabled them. And now I'm going to activate this. Okay, now you can see two services notifications enabled for host.enable notifications and service.enable notifications are true. Okay, it took around half an hour to explain. I'll try to quickly explain Telegram and Slack as well. So all the examples are given here, and all the steps should be maintained as it is. Don't do anything else, otherwise this won't work. So make sure you do all the things as given in the document. And then we'll first talk about the Telegram messaging. So we will be using the same Telegram chat ID and the token ID. So for that, we again we had to create two different scripts, and you have to download them into the particular folder and then give them executable permissions. Then on your iSync director, as we did with email, we need to create two commands. This is the command for host alarm by Telegram and the path, and then you need to add these arguments. So this is taking a lot of time, so you need to do it very carefully, otherwise you will end up with a lot of errors. Do the same thing for services command and then those arguments. In this particular two commands, I am using additional variables called token code and chat ID. So this token code and chat ID are two additional arguments coming from me to the script. So because of this, we need to define these two values, these two variables with the director system. That is done using custom variables. So custom variables, again, you can go to iSync director, and then there's something called custom, do more with custom data. This is to define data fields, and this is to define data categories. So as Telegram have two additional two data fields, I'm going to create a category called Telegram specific data. Create a category called Telegram specific data, and then go back to that define data fields and create a data field with the given details. So the field name should be, if it's the token code, then it should be the token code without two symbols. So earlier there were like so for this there are like two dollar marks in front and at the end of the word, but when you are creating the field, you don't have to put these two symbols, two dollar marks in front and end of the variable. So here now you can see the category defined, and then the data field name should be the characters without the dollar mark, and then you can put any caption you like. So in this case, I'm using token code, and then you need to select that Telegram specific data as the data field. So here it is asking, so in this case, I have three categories. I'm using Telegram specific data for the data field category, and data type, since it's a string, we can simply select it as a string and a visible string. So here there are two values, visible and hidden. Visible means you can see what you are typing. Hidden means it will change it into a password field. So it will simply make them into stars. Then do the same thing for another field value called chat ID. So this chat ID is like chat_ID, and then again put it as Telegram specific data. Then we can create our notification template. So the notification template, we need to do the same thing like what we did for the email notification template. Only difference here, it's like host alarm by Telegram. So there will be those few changes. And after adding this particular variable, particular entry or the template, you have to go to the fields of that template value and associate token code and chat ID as a mandatory value. So, okay, so let's go to the notification template. I'm going to create a new template like test template. I'm going to select the Telegram and I'm going to keep others as default and then click add. Now you can see there's a new field called a new tab called fields. On the fields tab, I'm going to select. So in this case, there are a lot of fields for me because I have already created most of them. I'm going to create token ID, make it mandatory and click add. Again, I'm going to select chat ID, make it mandatory and click add. So that is how you add custom variables to your template. Then you can do the same thing for the service notification template. So you can create a service notification template, and again you need to associate those two fields to that particular template. Then we can go to the creation of the notification. The notification, again, you can simply give a name and import the template. And in this case, I'm not going to select a specific user group because we are not sending those telegrams to a particular user, but to a particular system. So because of that, I'm not going to give the user group, but I'm going to select a particular single user just to activate this notification. If you don't use a user, it won't activate. So because of that, you have to select a particular user. So in this case, you can simply use your admin username and it won't do any harm because it will just take that user. That's only, it won't do any change to the user. And then we have to select apply to into hosts, assign where enable notification is true, and then there will be an additional category called Telegram specific data. So you can see this is the word we used, that is the category we used earlier, and then you have to include your chat ID and token code into that area. Simply copy paste those two values and click edit this and click add. So with this, you can create multiple Telegram chat codes, chat IDs, multiple Telegram token codes, and add different notifications based on different users. Same thing for the Telegram service template. And then you need to deploy. Okay, once you deploy, so here in our case, you can see all the Telegram notifications are disabled. I'm going to enable them. I just enabled those two notifications, and then I have to deploy them, deploy the changes. Now, if you go into a particular host, let's take this. If you go into a particular host, you will see under notifications, there are things like who we have enabled notifications, contact names, and contact groups. So since I have enabled notification to admin group, you can see this name, and then there are the contacts. So every time this check creates an alert, it will send into those notification system. So if you want to check the notifications, just click send notification, put a test message, click forced because it will send the system without any just, and click, and now you can see I received a test message. Here you can see the test message for the this is Telegram. So here you can see the Telegram with this custom details, IP addresses, and the same thing on Slack. Okay, so that is for Telegram, and then I'll go back to the Slack section because it will be the same thing. You just have to download the script, create the notification plugins, give the arguments, and in this case I'm using a single custom variable called Slack API because for Slack it's just the API, and because of that I'm not going to create a different category but just this data field. So here I'm creating the webhook URL. I'm not going to define the data field here. It's just empty. Again, it's a string visible value. Then on the template, I create the template and add the mandatory field webhook URL, do the service template, and then when creating the notification, again I'm simply selecting a single user and I'm going to give the URL, webhook URL, and click add. Same for the service notification, and then finally deploy. So it will take a little time for you to get into the system. Once you get familiar with the system, everything is just same. So you just have to select those things, copy the script, create the command, create the template, create the data fields, create the templates, and add the notification or system host or service. So it is same for everything. That is the Slack. So I'm just quickly going through everything because of the time. So now you can add emails, add Telegram, add Slack for your as your notification system in iSync. Okay, any questions? I know you might have a lot of questions if you start doing it, but it will take time, and since we don't have much time, and I still have one other guide to explain, I'm not going to go into details of everything. Okay, any questions? All right, then I'll quickly again go with the edurom check procedure. So just to show the things that you can do with iSinger, this is how you do a user check against your own FreeRadius server and test whether your FreeRadius server works and whether it authenticates your users. So this is the whole thing is done from your monitoring server or the iSinger server. So to do that, you need to have specific requirements on your iSinger server. So basically, you need to have installed EAP tools. So those EAP testing tools have to be installed. So that can be done using these few commands. And then, so actually I'm targeting just Ubuntu 20.04, not the other operating systems. For other operating systems, it will be a little bit different. You have to find the ways of installing these. Most of the time this should work, but this one have to be checked. And then on your FreeRadius server, you have to add your monitoring server as a client. So, you know, on your FreeRadius servers, you have to include your access points or your controller as a client so that it can use your Radius server. So the same thing, you have to include this particular your Radius, your monitoring server, your iSinger server as a client. So that can be done by including these few lines into that clients.conf file on Radius folder. So if you are using Radius older version, it should be etc freeradius clients.conf. If you are using Radius 3.0, then it would be on etc freeradius 3.0 clients.conf. Include this part with the IP address of your monitoring server, and then you have to put a shared key. Shared key means some set of characters, maybe a password kind of one. And then once you include that, go back to your monitoring system and test whether it worked. So the testing command would be something like that: rad EAP test minus capital H and the IP address of the FreeRadius server, minus P 1812 the port number, and then minus capital S shared secret. Shared secret is the one that we included on that client file. And then you have to give a test user. For that, you need to create a test user on your LDAP server. LDAP or Active Directory, you have to create a test user specific for this particular purpose. Don't use a personal user account or any other someone else's user account because it might create a lot of issues. So put that testing account for this purpose. It should be minus U and then the username and minus P and the password with minus M and minus E flags. So there are few other flags. So if that particular authentication success, you will see an access accept on your console. So for me, I'm not sure I have a particular test running. I don't have an example to show you. Yeah, I don't have the sample. You can simply just check your system. Okay, then as the testing command, we'll be using a command called check login, check eduroam login, which was done by RIANS, or the New Zealand Education and Research Network. So they have done a script, Negio script, for testing eduroam login. So we can use the same script. So you just have to go to this particular location. So this is not that script location, this is something else. Go to this particular location, download that file and give permission to that file. It's a Perl file. You can simply download it and use. Then we need to create the commands. Again, go to the commands, and then now we have to create a plugin check commands. Earlier we created the notification command, but now this is a plugin check command. Make it as plugin check command. Command name is you can use any command name, but in this case I'm using eduroam-eap. And then the command should be exactly something like this. It should be my capital plugin, capital D dir, plugin dir. That is a system variable used by iSinger, plugin dir, and then space plus space slash check eduroam and login.pl. So this is the file name which we downloaded. So make sure you correctly enter this plugin dir, because plugin dir is the variable name, P and D in capitals, and then the file name. After that, you have to add few arguments. So in this case, again, these arguments have to be included in a little bit careful manner. So there are like 10 to 12 arguments, and the arguments that I have marked in red have to be specially included. So the screenshots we are using to show you how it needs to be included. So for example, for this capital C flag have to be included like this. So the argument name is capital C, but there is no value. But the condition set if is having something like this. So make sure you include these values as it is, don't change any character. and then minus D, minus V, minus capital L. So in this case, you can see the whole thing in 2 lines. So this is return space len macro and something. So here this is a space, not an enter. Capital I, capital O. Here you can see the same return minus return space len and macro something. Okay, so when you once you include all these arguments, your preview should be something similar to whatever the one I have included. So you may find some changes in the order of these values. So there might be some changes in the order, but the content should be similar to whatever the things that you see in here. So this is the preview of that particular command. And then we need to create custom fields. So in this case, there are like a lot of custom fields. Because of that, I'm adding a new category called eduroam specific data. So these eduroam specific data are like this. So this is, I am giving as a table. I'm not putting any images, but make sure you copy exactly these names without spaces. So when you are copying, sometimes you might copy spaces, but don't copy the space, just the variable name, especially for the field name. And then there are a few hidden string values for the word eduroam password and eduroam secret value. Those are hidden. And then we can create the service template. So now we are not creating a notification template. This is a service template. So the service is to check the eduroam system, and it's going based on the service template. So the check command would be eduroam EAP. And again, we need to we need to add these fields to the eduroam service template. So include these values as fields, and once you enter this field, or once you finish entering these fields, go back to the service tab of that particular template, and then you will see this additional part for the eduroam specific data category include these details. So in this operator name, it should be your own value. So in this case, I'm using my some name, but for you it should be something similar to your monitoring server DNS or something similar. And then make sure it is not to run on the agent. So run on agent should be no. Then create the host. Host means the free radius server details. You need to create a generic host with your free radius IP address. It can be simple generic host. And then you can create the single service. So the service should be using the check eduroam template. Host, your host should be the free radius server, and other details, eduroam specific details, you need to specify your username and the password for that user, and then the shared secret of the free radius pairing. So those are custom details, and then click deploy. So that is what you have to do to enter eduroam server availability. So I'll just show you the service that runs to do the eduroam check. So this is the eduroam check I have included. So I simply installed FreeRadius server on this particular web app server and then created this particular eduroam check. So here you can see plugin output is access accept, and you can see the passwords and the eduroam secret and then the eduroam user. So this is the eduroam user I'm using, and all the other details are there. So what happens if this particular system or particular server goes down? For example, let's make that service unavailable. Okay, let's do something like this. So this is the place where I have add the user details, and if let's edit the user password. So this is my user. I'm going to edit that user with some error. So I just change the user with the username. So now here you can see the next check is in another few seconds. So let's wait that much time and see what happens. So this particular check is done every 5 minutes, not every minute. So I don't need to check a user every 5 minutes. If you like, you can increase it into like every hour or maybe every day or maybe something like that. Okay, in few seconds, this will do the testing. Now you can see the critical error with the eduroam check. The issue is access reject because I have changed the user. And now if and then since I haven't enabled notifications for this particular service, it's saying no notification has been sent for this issue. Now you can see eduroam check is giving a critical error. Okay, so it's like almost 3. Actually, it's past 3. Any questions? Yeah, so someone is asking about smoke pin. Actually, smoke pin is a different, smoke pin like thing. So smoke pin, what it does is it check the continuity with the service or maybe the throughput or maybe the availability. So that is not directly available on iSinga or even with LibreNMS, but you can install SmokePin and then associate it with both. So both LibreNMS and iSynca, they support SmokePin. You can simply associate it with SmokePin, but there's no direct plugin for SmokePin or SmokePin like thing. And the hardware inventory management is kind of a management part which doesn't include in the monitoring system. So hardware inventory management, things like LibreNMS, they have that inventory part, but if you want to include something for iSynca, then you may have to associate something like NetDot or some other software that do the inventory management. But if you focus on inventory management, then LibreNMS would do it for you. Okay, so since it's already 3 p.m., just to mark the end of the workshop, I just like to invite our network manager, Mr. Senviherat, to do the closing remarks.
Tilina, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tilina. So this is going to be the end of the workshop, end of the workshop series that we are planning in the future. The first workshop about network monitoring. So so next one might be network management, where you can get some idea about how you can manage your network, as some of you asked about inventory management, thing like that, and also how this is monitoring. Actually, this one is monitoring. So the next one will be about management, like inventory management, maybe network measurement, especially. You can measure the performance of certain circuit, certain link, maybe throughput, how to measure throughputs, and also how you can measure the latency from one point to another point. So so we are going to talk about similar topic on the next workshops. So at the same time, let me thanks to the team, including Tilina, Lalanda, Deepti, Tuan, and all the members of the LAN technical team for organizing this workshop, preparing material, testing, and all that. And also to be, let me thank to the administrative teams for supporting us to all these workshop, and also the LAN management, providing us the approval and encouragement to have this. Also, I have to thank all of you for participating in this workshop. Hope you all get something out of this, and also hope that during this season it is very helpful if you can have certain modern system in your network, so that you are almost out of the your campus. So you need to have a proper monitoring system to identify what is running, what is going down. Yes, Telina, you can take it.
Okay, so there was another question on reporting from Vatsala. So reporting in the sense from the LibreNMS and Isinga both can do the reporting, but you have to enable the frequencies on reporting from the LibreNMS as well as Isinga. For Isinga, you have to enable the module reporting. So please go to Isinga website, and on the community website, there is the reporting modules. You can simply download those files and then install it in your system. Then it will do the continuous reporting if you like, or maybe the scheduled reporting, things like emailing a report to someone every day or something like that. So LibreNMS, it already have that. You can simply set up a schedule on LibreNMS, so it will do that. But for Isinga, you have to do the reporting manually. Okay, so that makes the end of the session, and then the workshop. So thank you everyone for staying with us during these 3 weeks. So actually we planned this for 2 weeks, but then it happened to be 3 weeks. And so hope to see you again on the next workshop, maybe within few weeks time. And then if you have any questions regarding Isinga, regarding LibreNMS, you can put those questions to Deepthi and Tuan and to our tag email. So we will try to help you if you have any questions. Okay then, thank you everyone, and see you in the next workshop. Stay safe.